This illustration deals with the grounded conductor, NEC 250.30A is in Apple 3. Now, the grounded conductor, usually it's a conductor that carries any kind of fault current, short circuit current, back to the source and returns on the phase that has been grounded and creating a ground fault in some cases, or short circuit, and clears that overcurrent device that's involved. Now, notice we also have in the illustration there supply side bonding jumper. And then we have right next below it, we have the grounded conductor isolated in panel as outlined in 250.30A1 exception 2 and 250.30A3. Now notice all the rules for grounding, bonding, and installing a separately derived system, as you see there, all the rules now are in 250.30, so that the designer, installer only has to refer to 250.30 to get all the rules, and I think that's good. Now notice at the top of the illustration on the primary side of the transformer, you have your service panel and transformer disconnect up ahead of it there in accordance with 250.14 to place that disconnect where that section calls for it. And then we have an equipment ground, so we'd have redundant grounding there. Now, the transformer, if you look at the transformer itself and that call out pointing, it's a separately derived system, SDS. We're grounding it in accordance with 250.30, Article 100, and the grounded conductor is coming into the panel board and it's isolated. So any unbalanced current flowing back to the grounded bar will not transfer over that neutral in any way. It's isolated back. So therefore, the tap that you would make from that transformer in 250.21C or 250.92, we do not have a parallel path in accordance with 250.30 there at all. So we know we comply with the code. So let's just keep consistent with our size conductors. So we're tapping from that transformer, and our transformer secondary conductors are 4 aught hitting a 225 amp main. The system binding jumper is sized, as you see to the right of the panel board, and it's sized by 250.102C1, and it has to be at least number 2. And if you bond and ground the metal conduit with a metal bushing and a lug there, it would be number 2. The neutral or grounded conductor has to be at least number 2. But if it's a neutral, then remember you got to go to 220.21, calculate the neutral load, and take the larger of the 2. That's very important. And then if you're connecting it to the structural steel, for example, in the transformer, then it would be number 2. The separately bonding jumper there for the separately derived system, then it would be number 2 also. So you know, up to 1100 kC mil, if the neutral isn't required to be larger by 220.61, then we know everything in that panel board has to be at least number 2, with the neutral possibility being larger because of the neutral current. You have quite a bit of neutral load in that panel board. So there's a number of things that took place here, but in 250.30A3, we could ground here, as you see, to the structural steel, and we could have metal conduit enclosing our conductors down to the breaker, and we could size that in a 10-foot length, a 25-foot length, over 25 up to 100, and then any length. But you would be looking at 250.21C and 250.92 and sizing it properly. And what they wanted to point out here, if this was PVC now that was connecting the transformer to the panel, then you could ground it at the service or at the transformer, either one, but you'd have to take the XO loose if you grounded it down at the first disconnecting means. And they wanted to clarify this. And they added this new sentence to clarify that the grounded conductor shall not be larger than the ungrounded conductors. So the point of this is, if we had a large main and you were sizing down here, what they're saying, you never under any circumstances have to have the grounded conductor or neutral larger than the ungrounded conductor. So for example, 4-aught, hitting that 225 amp main, the grounded conductor never has to be larger than 4-aught, and that's what the purpose of change is pointing out to the user of the code. And then the note, we want you to remember this note, because the grounded conductor never has to be larger than the ungrounded conductors as called out now in 250.30 A as in Apple 3. And then the reminder is that the grounded conductor to carry fault current or short, in cases of fault current, has to be at least size from table 250.102, C as in car 1, and then calculate it as a neutral carrying conductor by 220.61 and use the larger of the two. And that pretty well summarizes what we're, this new sentence is trying to point out in the purpose of change.